Guys, what's up? This is Mel, and I'm here to talk about The Flash, episode 415, titled Enter Flashtime, which premiered Tuesday, March 6, 2018 on the CW. I'm recording on March 11th. So huge spoiler alert. If you haven't seen the episode already, please go do so first. Otherwise, my other video reminders are up on screen. Take a moment to remind yourselves of those. I'm going to try to do this in 10 minutes, so let's start the clock, and let's begin with what happened in this episode. So timeline-wise, I don't really know how long it's been since the previous episode, so I'll leave it at that. But the huge episode reminder is the fact that we are racing against time in regards to a detonated bomb going off, and the villain being time, essentially, in this episode, because a huge majority of it really it takes place while only the speedsters were going. So for us normal people, it only looks like maybe 10 minutes have gone by. So there's that. Huge episode breakdown for storyline. There's pretty much two different storylines going on. First one being Barry racing to save the city from a bomb, and the second one being Jesse's visiting her father, Harry. So with the first storyline, we find the moment, it's a simple case until the bad guys detonate a bomb, and Barry starts speeding in hopes that he would get to the device before she triggers it. That's not the case, so in order to keep the bomb from going off, he has to continue moving at super speed. And so there's that. Also, we find out that he can only go the longest, or any of the speedsters could, because their bodies are capable of moving that fast. Anyone who's not a speedster can't handle the effects as long. But we find out that Cisco can't breach it because there is no time for his breaches to form, since they are stuck in hyperspeed, I guess you can call it. Jesse suggests time travel to Barry, but he refuses because he has learned his lesson from Flashpoint that even going back a minute in time could change things. So there's that. I was wondering why that was an option, but at least Barry acknowledges that. But it kind of brings me back to the time where Barry time traveled because their whole team was being disintegrated by Vandal Savage, and he ended up running back in time to the day before. So I'm wondering why he didn't do something like that, or at least in this case, all he had to do was that minute, but at least he's grown to know that he can't time travel for that purpose. So he's learned his lesson there. But anyways, we get Harry suggesting that they move the bomb to set it off in the Speed Force. Jay Garrick outright refuses because the destruction of the Speed Force would mean all speedsters losing their power and their connection to this entity that is meant to stabilize the multiverse and all that. We found out that Killer Frost cannot freeze it. Don't know why, actually. It's not like she needs time like Cisco would, but it could just be the amount of power she would need to freeze it isn't possible. Maybe it got too draining to her because it got to the point that she was able to feel heat again for a moment. So there's that. The three speedsters, Barry, Jesse, and Jay Garrick, try to do the whole triple lightning move to shoot at the bomb, but they get it interrupted when Jay Garrick isn't fast enough to complete his portion. His excuse being that he's not used to running at super speed for as long as he's been doing, so he bows out. Later on, Jessie bows out by her father's side. So there's that. But in the end, when Barry was trying to say his goodbyes to Iris, she ends up getting the idea off of what he said to her about a lightning rod, about how he feels like she grounds him. And with that quote, Iris gets the idea of using the Speed Force lightning to neutralize the bomb, and use the quark sphere they used to trick the Speed Force into thinking Barry was still in the prison. Use that as their lightning rod to get the Speed Force to hit the bomb. So there's that. Now, this second storyline with Jesse visiting Harry, that's more of a sideline storyline. It at least explains why she was on Earth 1 to begin with when this whole thing happened. And it was essentially the whole reason why they had an argument and why Harry left was because Harry didn't want to talk about the death of Jesse's mother, about Harry's wife. It just was to be too painful. It got to the point that Jesse has dealt with it. She believes talking about it would help her father. Father's not ready for that. So he ended up modifying the telepathy dampener he created for Cecile, and he ended up reversing it so that a person wearing the device could hear another person's thoughts. And he uses that device so that Jesse could hear what he hears in his head, and that is memories with his wife, with her mother. So there's that. Last moments of the episode show Caitlin and Harry talking about Killer Frost at Jitters, about how Caitlin was able to remember Killer Frost's time in Flashtime, and how she was worried for her alter ego. And then before they could talk further about it, they were interrupted by that mysterious waitress that was at Barry and Iris's wedding. She's popped up a few times. She definitely knows the language of the Speed Force symbols. Everyone thinks it's Barry and Iris's future daughter, Dawn Allen. There's no confirmation of the actual show itself. There's many hints to it, but she gave off a different tone at the end of her scene this time. It seemed she has the whole jolly, happy-go-lucky, rambling self of hers, and then by herself she had more like a hidden agenda type of expression. So there's that. But moving on to tidbits, though, we find out that Clifford DeVoe, aka the Thinker, has had his pocket dimension where his lair is located, and he also has been having these. He's had it for the last 3 years since he gained his superior intellect. So for the last 3 years, he's manipulating people to get them where he needs them to be to achieve what he's wanted. So he's planning this for a very long time, which is shocking to the team, but essentially it has been 3 years, technically, just under 4 years since the particle accelerator went off the first time. So understandably so. Also, we find out that Jay Garrick is thinking of retiring as the Flash on Earth 3, but he plans to train his next prodigy, a woman speedster, before he hangs up the helmet for good. Now I'm wondering if that speedster is someone we've already met and they just happen to be a speedster on that Earth, or if it's someone brand new, if we'd actually see her later on down the line. But there's that right there. Moving on to most shocking moment of the episode, I have to say maybe entering Flashtime itself is not something all speedsters could do. Specifically, I guess, mostly because Jessie wasn't able to bring her father into Flashtime like Barry was able to do for everybody else. And Jay was even shocked when he saw Barry was able to bring Harry into Flashtime. So it made it seem like it's not something every speedster could do. So that was a surprise there. So there's that. Moving on to top 3 favorite moments, though. First one being the 3 speedsters. It was just fantastic to see Barry working with Jesse and Jay Garrick. First time all 3 of them were working together, I believe. It was also great to see them try to work out how they can use their powers. Also, further exploring their powers, like with Barry being able to bring people into Flashtime when the other 2 weren't able to. Having all 3 of them build up to the whole triple lightning thing. It would have been great if Jay completed that, but we didn't get to, understandably so, since he was getting tired. But it was just great to see these 3 speedsters coming together. So that was great. Another favorite of mine has to be between Barry and Killer Frost, and that was when she told, for a split moment, it didn't sound like Killer Frost. It sounded like Caitlin without the double voice thing going on. But she said, Barry, don't let Katie die. It wasn't that Caitlin. Killer Frost calls her Katie. So I found that not only to be a huge moment because Killer Frost was showing concern for her counterpart, but also because we haven't seen many moments between Barry and Caitlin, let alone Barry and Killer Frost, on a 1-to-1 scale. So it was fantastic to see it like this, and then it was further fantastic that Caitlin was able to remember this moment. And I don't know if that's because it was Killer Frost showing concern for Caitlin, and that's why Caitlin was able to remember it, because she usually can't remember what Killer Frost does, or if it was because it happened during Flashtime when essentially time hasn't moved or anything like that. If that's why Caitlin was able to remember Killer Frost's time in this hyperspeed Flashtime that she was in. So that's a little curious there. I definitely love that there. So there's that. And another favorite moment of mine has to be Barry sharing, or not Barry, Harry, Dr. Wells sharing his thoughts with Jesse with the telepathy device. It was very emotional, very moving. It's something they definitely needed to see with each other. It definitely explains a lot of Harry's anger issues and where they stem. It's just he's been so frustrated over the fact that he's had this great loss. He's not truly dealing with it. So it's just great to see that side of things for them. So there's that. There's the time. I'm also wondering if everything that Jesse is seeing or hearing now is what Cecile has heard inklings of whenever she's with Harry. So there's that. Moving on to top 3 peeved moments, though, I only have the one, and it was the fact that Barry didn't bring Joe into Flashtime. Yes, I understand that it wasn't a priority since Joe couldn't really bring anything to help him stop the bomb. But at the very end, when Barry looks at Joe and like doesn't enter him, like doesn't even give a final goodbye, I was a little peeved about that because yes, he has final moments, but I kind of wish that Joe was still able to have that goodbye instead of Barry just rushing over to have that goodbye with Iris. Like, no matter what, he was going to have that goodbye with Iris, but it's just that if he thought like it was going to be the end of the world, he was able to have Flashtime moments with everybody except for Joe, and it just seemed unfair. So anyways, I'll leave it at that. But what moment will I remember most when I look back on this episode? This pretty much reminded me, the whole Flashtime thing, I think it was called the Mannequin Challenge. This is pretty much the Flash's version of that. So that was pretty funny. But the fact that it was Flashtime, the fact that we get to see Barry's power on a very different level was just fantastic to see. And thankfully, this wasn't the first time we've seen it happen. We saw it happen during his trial when he did it with Iris. So it was great to see it on a bigger scale. So anyways, moving on to random questions. Based off of this episode, first question is, why didn't the Speed Force still target Barry despite the Quark Sphere replica of his DNA being thrown at the bomb? Because technically the lightning was following Barry's DNA. So when Barry grabbed the Quark Sphere in the Speed Force, it automatically started following Barry because both sets of DNA were moving together, right? So then when Barry threw the Quark Sphere at the bomb, what's stopping the lightning from just focusing on the real Barry instead of focusing on the DNA replica ball? Or why not having it split off between the two? I mean, it just seemed like when the lightning went solely after the Quark Sphere, which ended up hitting the bomb, that it just seemed to disregard the fact that the real DNA source was just underneath their noses, so to speak. So that's a question there. Another question was, did Barry eventually re-stabilize the Speed Force with another Quark Sphere replica? Or did that one get destroyed in the neutralization of the bomb? Or what? Because we still have to remember that there has to be something in the Speed Force to stabilize that prison, since Salvatore is not there to do it, and Barry's and no other speedster is there to do it. So there's that. Another question is, Harry's telepathy device that he gave to Jesse to test out, could that be used to overwhelm DeVoe or to give to Barry so that Barry has the ability to read DeVoe's thoughts to kind of even out the playing field and at least on some level cancel out the telepathy power that DeVoe inherited. So there's that. Otherwise, that's about it. Moving on to predictions very quickly. Based off the promo for 416, it looks like Barry lost his speed to Iris, who is now the purple speedster with a suit. Now, based off the synopsis for that episode, it reads that Team Flash confronts a new bus meta, Matthew, aka Melting Pot. He has the ability to swap people's DNA, so during a battle with Team Flash, he transfers Barry's super speed to Iris. Now, with a new threat unleashed in Central City, Barry must act as the team leader while Iris takes on the mantle of superhero speedster in order to defeat their new foe. Now, I don't really know how to... it looks great on the trailer, but it's just... the synopsis alone has me questioning a lot of things. I mean, it would be great to see Iris as a speedster just as a what-if type of thing, but then it has me wondering, are they only doing it, having Barry's powers go to Iris so that the couple can have, if the shoe fits, or if the shoe's on the other foot or whatever, so that they know what the other person feels like kind of like Freaky Friday moment without it being a Freaky Friday moment. So I'm wondering if they're doing this so that Iris knows what it's like for Barry to be a speedster, and then for Barry to know what it's like for Iris when she has to stay behind and see him rush into danger. I'm wondering if that's the reason why they're doing this whole Iris speedster thing. Also, it has me questioning why in the world would Iris be present during a battle, which would have allowed Melting Pot to make a power transfer between her and Barry in the first place. Also has me questioning why is he swapping people's DNA? Why doesn't it just be him swapping people's powers, or swapping bodies even better? That would have been hilarious to see Barry and Iris's body and vice versa. I mean, my whole thing is that if Iris were to able to develop a power, I don't believe it would be Barry's speed her being a speedster would be the power she would develop. And I think that what has me very iffy about the thing. Because, like, I don't know, the whole genetics thing, and what are the odds that you're gonna be in a family of speedsters when you're not related to a family of speedsters? But then again, Wally's a speedster, but he became a speedster due to certain events that happened in Flashtime with the explosions and stuff like that. So, anyways, I'm on the fence about this, but I'm excited to see how it turns out. Excited to see how they portray it. They better not have Iris being an expert as a speedster. They definitely have to show her being a newbie in comparison to Barry or comparison to Wally. But I'm definitely excited to see how they pull this off. The synopsis has me a little iffy, but the promo has me excited. So there's that. I'll leave it with that. Also, just some other questions from this. I'm probably going to get some flack for it, though, but just wondering, but what happened to Iris being a journalist? I mean, am I to assume that she quit her day job at the paper just so she can stay at Star Labs? Because Barry was away, and now that he's back, she just stays there. I mean, I know in the future she supposedly returns to being a journalist because her name is still on the byline of that future article, but what happened to featuring Iris as a journalist? It seemed like it just dropped off after season 2 and stuff like that. So that's a little confusing concern I have there. Also, I've noticed that we aren't seeing much of Caitlyn lately. I mean, we haven't really seen much of her since that Trickster family rolled into town when Barry was still in prison. And then also that there's not many Barry and Caitlyn scenes either, even if it's just friendship scenes. The fact that there isn't that many of them, I find it, like, very depressing. I mean, in season 1, season 2, we had a bunch of them, even on a friendship level. So it's just, I'm wondering what's happening with those there. But anyways, I'll leave it at that, guys. But what did you guys think of this episode? I truly loved it with the display of the power that Barry was able to further explore. What did you guys think of it? What did you guys like about it? What do you think is going to happen next? Let me know in the comments down below. Love to hear your own thoughts, theories, and predictions about what you think is going to happen next. Also, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to my channel, and check out my other video if you haven't done so already. If you want, check out my Tumblr page. The link for that is down below. I read blog promos, web clips, quotes, gifs, synopses, news, all that good stuff, all found in one place, so go check that out. Over there also is connected with WordPress. A link for that is down below as well. More organized, but a work in progress, so keep that in mind. But otherwise, thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you so much for your patience. I hope you come back next time to see what I have to say about the next episode. But until then, guys, this is Mel. Wish you all a great day, great week, wherever you are. Bye for now.